In this episode, we're tackling a common mistake that may just be ruining your friendships, and we're going to figure out how you can actually identify it and fix it. Let's go. Welcome back to Accidentally Intentional, where we're on a mission to destroy loneliness by building rich relationships. This one is kind of personal to me because it is something I am experiencing and witnessing live time in my life. Are you ready for the big reveal? I'm gonna say it early because we have lots to discuss on it. The big mistake that you could very well be making in your friendships that's actually harming them and ruining them and leaving you wondering, what the heck is going wrong? Why does everybody hate me? Why does this, any negative thought that's happening? You ready for it? It may be because you're making an assumption. Assumptions are detrimental and almost always negatively impact relationships because it's hinging on something that hasn't been fact-checked. Perhaps you make an assumption based on one thing you know to be true, perhaps a half-truth, but not the full truth. And assumptions can look like this. Here's a couple examples of it. Telling people what you think they should do when they don't ask you. Assumptions can be making up someone's mind for them before even asking them and giving the opportunity to answer for themselves. Assumptions can look like a story you're telling yourself about a look somebody gave you or something someone said to you, and it's made you conclude something entirely different than what's actually happening. Assumptions destroy relationships, and I'm seeing this firsthand because you're not letting other people in to the process in which you're thinking through. I'm witnessing a couple people in my life right now who are making assumptions about other people, and they actually look like believing that this person doesn't like them, this person's mad at them, this person thinks this person, and it's becoming this really horrible implosion to witness happen to this person. Because when you make an assumption and then act out on said assumption that you created, not necessarily validated or based in truth, but your own thoughts, it becomes in a lot of ways a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe and you're making an assumption that nobody likes you, somebody's mad at you, this person's angry with you, this person said this, so they think this, and it's just like you're building a huge story out of something that may not be true at all. It is so harmful to you because you start believing something and then you act out on that thing you're believing, whereas everybody else around you is wondering, why are they acting so weird? Why are they acting mad at me? You know, like it's like you think someone's mad at you, so you act mad at them. All because you come to a conclusion that the tone or the words in which someone used maybe to text you is just off. Or maybe someone confronted you about something or trusted you about something or said, hey, this is what I'm feeling, and you took it as a personal attack. The underlying theme through all of it is assumptions, and it's really rough to watch. Like, because assumptions aren't just isolated events, right? They play into everything else, not only your thought patterns, but they cause you to do things that you wouldn't otherwise do, such as jump in other people's proverbial lanes. You'll be getting lane violations all over the place because if you're making assumptions about other people, then you think that you know them well enough to say things about them or decide things for them, all because you're writing stories that aren't actually true. Making assumptions and writing stories makes you feel out of control because you are. There actually isn't something, I mean, there probably are a couple things, but I can't think of many things that can make someone feel as powerless as making assumptions and creating stories about certain scenarios or certain people or certain events and instances, because you're blaming everybody else for the pain that you're experiencing. And that's super powerless, because it's like, well, everybody's taking everything from you. Or is that true? You might be watching this video or listening to this episode thinking to yourself, man, I really like where we're going with this, but ultimately I don't really know where to even start when it comes to building rich friendships or getting out of my rut of loneliness. And if that's you, I got you. Because now we have a free downloadable guide, which is the 5 steps you need to build rich friendships. It's the springboard that launches you into every other facet of your life in your own mission to destroy your loneliness. It's the exact steps that I, along with now hundreds of others, have used to destroy their loneliness and build the friendships that they've always dreamed of and always wanted. And now it could be your turn too. So make sure you check out the link in the description or the show notes to download that guide for free right now. 5 steps to build rich friendships. Hey, by the way, I think you're worth it. Back to the show. As I'm going through this, maybe you're identifying that you've been making some assumptions in your life about somebody or about something, and you're realizing right now for the first time that you haven't actually asked if it was true. So this is actually the sequence of steps. First off, self-reflect. Have I been making an assumption that hasn't been confirmed or told to me specifically by somebody else? Could I have maybe misinterpreted someone's tone or action? Am I willing to give them the benefit of the doubt and ask them about it? Or if they're not available to ask them about it, can I actually sit down in a collected state and ask, is this true? Is this assumption soundtrack I've been playing actually true? There's actually 3 questions you need to ask. Is this assumption true? Is it helpful? And is it kind? Because if you can't answer yes to all 3, then there's something that needs to be addressed with the person that you're assuming something about. Assumptions make us believe that people have the worst intentions. Assumptions make us feel like everyone is out to get us. Assumptions make us feel like life is happening to us and we don't get to decide anything. When really, in reality, and when we zoom out, we're actually just a couple questions away from regaining control over what is controllable, and that's me. That's you and our reactions to things and our perspective and how we choose to see a certain situation. There's been enough research out there that shows the impacts of negativity on our brain. I don't think you need me to tell you that. You know this. And assumptions are an offshoot of that negativity. And it's really painful to watch somebody go through an assumption spiral. Dare I say, it's even more painful to unknowingly be in an assumption spiral yourself. Dang. It's so hard. And you can tell like how raw this is for me to be talking about, right? Because I'm just sharing my heart about it. I'm going through this right now. I've created a story in my mind about a certain event that has made me believe something that isn't true. And I've lived according to it lately and acted according to it and communicated about it as if it were. And that's crushed and been a detriment to one of the relationships in my life. And so because I'm using this as an opportunity to just remind you once again that I'm on this journey with you, what I'm actively teaching myself every day is to take a minute to journal, write down the assumptions, and test it. Say, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? And if it isn't all three of those things, I have to actually replace it with a different thought, unless I can go to that person directly and ask them. And you know what? Recently I did ask somebody. I said, hey, this is something I was told and I therefore spun into this, and this is what I've chosen to believe. Look, there's so much power when you're saying, I chose this. But hey, is this thing that I've chosen to believe true? Because then you give someone the gift of being able to actually be honest with you and tell you what is true. And I think we get so afraid of it that we almost use assumptions as a protection, like a self-protection kind of tool, when actually it's literally destroying. It's to our detriment that this is happening. That assumed protection tool that you're using by writing these stories and making these assumptions is just making everything go right down the drain. And so that's a big mistake I've been learning. I've also been watching someone else do in my life, and now being on both sides of it, it's something that I do not want to participate in anymore. That's why I'm doing this journaling exercise, and that's why I'm just talking honestly. This isn't so much a teaching lesson as much as what can we self-reflect on in ourselves? What assumptions have we been making? What's been harming our relationships because of those assumptions? And how can I actually finally get to the bottom of it and figure out if it's true or not? And here's the thing. Maybe in some rare off chance, the assumption that you're making about someone is true, and you confront the person, or you actually address the situation and find out that it's true. Okay. Well, now you actually have a lot more control, because now you get to decide, knowing with full knowledge what to do next. There's so much power in having that now understanding, because when you have understanding, you can gain wisdom and act accordingly. We're so afraid of hearing hard things, or hearing when someone might have an issue with us, or when we're not good enough. We're so afraid of hearing this because I think that's what we're struggling with, right? It comes back to confidence, and we outsource that to other people, other things, other titles, you name it. When really, what we have to do is be willing to open those hands, potentially get vulnerable, be willing to let go of the assumptions and the stories we've made up in our minds based on half-truth or limited knowledge, and be willing to step into the unknown in order to be known. We're on a mission on this channel and podcast to destroy loneliness by building rich friendships. One way you build rich friendships is by not letting assumptions get in the way, but actually giving an opportunity for the truth and the full truth to be revealed. We'll see you next time.